Hello, this is Bobby Cappuccio. Thank you for joining me for another Mind Matters video blog. Back in the 1960s, in the Greenwich Village area of New York City, there was a place called the Lion, and every Monday night they would have a talent show where some of the best and the brightest within the city would come to compete for a little bit of money, but hopefully recognition that would help launch their career. One July night in 1960, in walked this woman, nervous, awkwardly, dragging with her bags filled with clothing and feathers hanging out. And she was adorable, and I can only imagine what the patrons were thinking as she dragged the bags through and made her way out onto the stage to compete in the talent show as a singer. Now, what was interesting is this woman had never ever taken a singing lesson before in her life. And she wasn't a singer. She never sang in an audience. She was an actress, but a friend of hers had heard her sing and thought she would be great and just insisted that she give it a try. And since she needed the money, she thought, what do I have to lose? But the moment she got on stage, she made a critical mistake. She announced to the audience that she would be performing the song, A Sleepin' Bee. Now, there's nothing wrong with the song Sleepin' Bee. As a matter of fact, it's a lovely song. But at that time in New York City, Sleepin' Bee was performed by the legendary Donna Carroll in Truman Capote's House of Flowers. Donna Carroll was an absolute legend, and rightfully so. She was beloved in the New York music scene. And the audience literally got incensed that this nobody, in her very first debut in public, would attempt to perform anything by Donna Carroll. So this nervous, awkward person who had never sung ever before in her life in an audience was greeted with sneers and extreme disapproval. Now, I can imagine that anybody faced with a situation like this would be quite tempted to get off the stage and never attempt to sing ever again. And I can imagine that's probably what was going through her mind, but she made a decision. She thought since she was already there, she was going to perform, and not only was she going to perform, but she was going to perform to the best of her ability. And I can only imagine the expression on people's faces being completely transformed once she opened her mouth and dropped note after note. See, the patrons of the Lion had no idea. They couldn't have had any idea what they were going to experience that evening. But one thing was for sure. They had never heard anything like her before. And most likely, they would never hear anything so beautiful again. And sneers probably were transformed into tears and then voracious applause as they were moved more deeply than they ever could have imagined they would be on that very night. But I can guarantee you, those patrons who are still alive today could vividly recall exactly what they felt the first time they heard Barbra Streisand sing. The next year in Winnipeg, Canada, Barbra Streisand's performance at a nightclub was cut short when the owner of the club decided he just didn't like the way she sang. And I wonder, who does history look upon more favorably? A nameless critic who nobody even knows who this person was, who's soon to be forgotten, or someone who possessed incredible talent coupled with the passion and determination that they just could not be denied. When I think about that nightclub owner, I think about Michael Jordan's high school coach who decided to cut him from the basketball team, or a name that you might not have heard of because he's really faded into the names of other irrelevant people all throughout history. Piero Soderini, who was the mayor of Florence, who had the audacity to criticize the sculpting ability of someone you might have heard of, Michelangelo. See, when you think about a Barbra Streisand or a Michelangelo or a Beethoven or a Michael Jordan or a David Beckham or someone with extreme talents that have touched people's lives and literally influenced millions of people around the world, they didn't have that impact because of the talents they possessed. Many people are born with extraordinary talents, yet tiptoe safely from the cradle to the grave without even being noticed, without ever making that decision to step out and step up and give at the highest limits of their personal potential. The people who make a difference in the world are the people who decide that regardless of the popular opinions of others and the opposition that they are almost guaranteed to face, they're going to live at the highest potential of their personal abilities. Now, we might not be a Barbra Streisand. You might not be a Michael Jordan. You might not be a Michelangelo. But this is something that I know after traveling all over the world and coaching countless thousands of people for well over a decade, is that every single person has something unique, a talent, a contribution that only they can give. And whether your stage is global, whether it's within your community, or whether your stage is as small as a single club or facility that you work within, that stage is powerful. And it's a stage whose center stage can only be possessed by you. Ask yourself this question: what am I so passionate about? It would get me up early and keep me up late at night. What is it that I love to do so much that if I knew I wasn't doing it at the highest limits of my capacity, no matter how many other things I enjoyed and achieved in life, I would always live a life of quiet desperation, feeling that something's missing? Because I think when we possess a unique ability, it's also our responsibility to give it over to as many people as we possibly can. Because if not us, no one else could. See, if you accept someone's opinion of you, you accept the destiny that they have in mind for you. And all of us, regardless of what we did or didn't do within the past, deserve better than to live out a script for our lives that are written by someone else, especially a critic.